From the outside, camp looks like nothing more than a few roster battles tightening up. Inside the building, the coaching staff is already leaving clues. Who gets the first rep? Who turns limited snaps into pressure? And who is pushing familiar names closer to the cut line? Bolt fam, get ready. We're stepping inside that decision room to see how one relentless rookie disrupted the edge rotation, why another new arrival is making noise, how the backfield became a good problem, and who moved forward in the race to protect Justin Herbert. Subscribe, because this week's details could reshape the roster before any announcement drops. The first move did not come through a general manager's press conference or an official change to the depth chart. It came from the way Nadame Tucker keeps forcing everyone to notice him. When an undrafted free agent steps in front of the microphones and says he wants to go through your face, plays full speed, and does not know how to turn it off, you can call that confidence. When he carries the same attitude into practice and preseason action, it becomes information for the coaching staff. Tucker was never a stranger to Chris O'Leary. At Western Michigan, during O'Leary's only season as a college defensive play caller, Tucker piled up 14.5 sacks and 21 tackles for loss in 13 games. O'Leary already knows the player's motor, the kind of pressure he can create, and the intensity now showing up in Los Angeles. Against Houston, Tucker generated 1 pressure on only 12 pass rush snaps. It was a small sample, and the stat line was hardly explosive, but the athleticism, urgency, and willingness to attack every rep were all there. But Bolt fam, here is where the story gets interesting. Tucker's rise is not simply about claiming a possible 5th spot in the outside linebacker room. It puts direct pressure on Kyle Kennard and Bud Dupree because Khalil Mack, Tuli Tuipulotu, and Akheem Mesidor already make up the position's established core. If Tucker keeps climbing, finding room for all 3 remaining candidates on the 53-man roster becomes extremely difficult. A camp battle that looked manageable suddenly carries the weight of a brutal decision. Dupree has experience and provided useful depth, but his production has slipped. In 2025, he finished with 2 sacks and 9 solo tackles in 16 games while playing 41% of the defensive snaps. Kennard, a 4th-round pick last year, offers youth and room to develop. His rookie season, however, was disrupted by injuries and included several healthy scratches. He still has to prove he can hold up consistently against the run and become a real pass-rushing presence. I will always defend competition that does not protect a resume. Draft capital deserves investment, not immunity. Experience deserves respect, not a reserved seat. Tucker still has work to do as a run defender, and his spot is not locked up, but this staff must reward whatever improves the defense right now. Behind Mack, Tuipulotu, and Mesidor, Los Angeles needs fresh legs, aggression, and someone who can keep the temperature high when the starters rotate out. The final deadline is August 30th, but this decision is being dragged into the present. Every strong Tucker practice leaves less room for the safe choice. Every Kennard or Dupree snap is now measured against the rookie's energy. That is the real change unfolding inside the building. Tucker is no longer competing only against his undrafted status. He now controls how uncomfortable life becomes for 2 players who entered camp ahead of him. That pressure also explains why Andre Carter II deserves attention, even with his path to the active roster almost completely blocked. The Chargers signed him after releasing wide receiver Monte Morrow, and at first glance, it looked like a minor adjustment at the bottom of the rotation. Carter needed only a few days to turn a quiet transaction into an inside conversation. Chris Rim listed him among Saturday's practice standouts. Carter recorded 2 would-be sacks during team drills while working against the 3rd-team offensive line. Quarterbacks cannot be hit in camp, so those plays do not belong beside official game production. They tell the staff who won his assignment, reached the pressure point, and earned another look. His introduction had already come against Houston. 1 pressure, 1 batted pass, and 1 tackle in 20 snaps. At 26 years old, 6 feet 6 and 256 pounds, Carter has the length and movement skills to disrupt the edge, especially against the run. The problem is the numbers game. Since entering the NFL as an undrafted free agent with the Vikings in 2023, he has moved through the practice squads of the Raiders, Lions, and Dolphins. He later signed a futures contract with Washington, but was released after a short stay in its off-season program. His most realistic path in Los Angeles leads back to the practice squad. Even that opportunity depends on the domino effect involving Tucker, Kennard, and Dupree. If Kennard misses the 53, the 4th-round investment Los Angeles made last year could push the team to keep developing him. If Dupree is left out, the natural expectation is that the 33-year-old veteran would pursue an immediate opportunity elsewhere. With the offensive line and cornerback room also demanding depth, keeping more than 1 edge rusher on the practice squad looks unlikely. That is what gives those 2 practice sacks real value. Carter does not have to pretend he controls the entire equation. He has to make leaving him out feel dangerous. So far, that is exactly what he has done. The Chargers signed an emergency piece and got a competitor already demanding a longer look. The reward may not be a place on the 53. It could be a chance to remain in the building, develop those tools, and stay ready for the moment this season inevitably tests the depth chart. After 2 battles defined by too little room, the offense has a different kind of luxury. Too much talent asking for the football in the backfield. Omarion Hampton remains at the center of the plan. The 2025 first-round pick flashed his ceiling as a rookie, including 128 yards and a 53-yard touchdown against the Giants, before an injury cut his season short. Mike McDaniel now says Hampton may have shown as much growth as any player from the first day on the field through Tuesday. That sounds like preparation for greater responsibility, not another empty August compliment. Every back around him offers a different answer. Keaton Mitchell brings rare speed. His average of 14.49 miles per hour on carries was more than 1 mile per hour faster than any other running back in 2025, according to Next Gen Stats. Kimani Vidal and Jarrett Patterson proved their value when injuries knocked out the starters last season, combining power, change of direction, and command of the system. Amar Johnson and Greg Desrosiers Jr. used the win over Houston to keep their names alive. So the internal debate should not begin with who deserves to disappear. It should begin with which package gets the most out of each tool. Hampton can handle volume and contact. Mitchell changes pursuit angles before the ball even reaches his hands. Vidal and Patterson can hold the structure together when the game demands less glamorous work. The young backs force the staff to evaluate return ability, pass protection, and special teams value because those final spots are rarely decided by the prettiest run alone. That depth can protect Hampton while giving McDaniel the freedom to change pace, formation, and physical strain throughout a game. LA Pulse Check. Tell me in the comments which trait should matter most when the snaps are divided. Explosiveness, power, pass protection, or versatility? Your answer will reveal how this fan base sees the kind of problem every coach would love to manage. The last clue is quieter, but it may touch the most sensitive part of this entire build, the space directly in front of Justin Herbert. For much of camp, the left guard competition appeared to stretch across Jake Slaughter, Kayode Awosika, Trevor Penning, Trey Pipkins III, and Branson Taylor. Slaughter worked mostly as a second-team center and guard, an understandable transition for someone who never played guard in college. But a second-round pick was not made to remain in an adjustment period forever. Against Houston, Slaughter finally gave the staff the picture it needed. He started at center and then slid over to left guard, allowing only 1 pressure across 30 pass-blocking snaps. There were reps where he gave up ground, but he was never beaten cleanly. In the running game, he showed the power to move the first level and the athleticism to reach linebackers, repeatedly disrupting Houston's run fits. That alone would have counted as progress. The detail that changes the read came at the next practice. Slaughter took the first left guard reps in 11-on-11 work, joining Trey Pipkins, Tyler Biadasz, Cole Strange, and Joe Alt on the opening line. Awosika rotated in afterward. It was not Slaughter's first experience with the starters, but the sequence matters. A heavy workload against the Texans, functional play at 2 positions, then the first opportunity beside Herbert's unit. That is how a hierarchy begins to appear before anyone announces it. Jim Harbaugh said he was pleased with the direction of the competition and suggested it could be settled by the end of this camp week. That makes the August 20th matchup against the 49ers a potential final exam. If Slaughter repeats his calm in pass protection and his power in the run game, he will have built a complete case. Youth, versatility, and a response under pressure. I like this direction because it does not force a draft pick to win through his label. It lets him win through growth. Herbert has spent too much time watching interior pressure wreck plays before they can develop. Finding a guard who can keep the pocket firm will not create the loudest headline on this roster, but it could unlock everything Mike McDaniel wants to run. The clues point towards Slaughter holding the advantage. One more game could turn that advantage into a starting job. 4 stories, 1 message moving through the building. This coaching staff is letting the field tear apart old assumptions. Tucker is pressuring 2 established resumes. Carter turned a quiet arrival into a practice squad candidacy. The backfield is forcing McDaniel to distribute weapons instead of patching holes. Slaughter is bringing youth and protection closer together at the offense's most delicate spot. That is healthy, as long as the Chargers have the courage to finish the decisions the performances are suggesting. Bolt fam, I need your opinion on this one. What is the most urgent adjustment before final cuts? Drop it in the comments, subscribe to Los Angeles Chargers News today, and come back for the next development inside this fight.